you're really just assessing, is it me?
Yes.
That's what I really want you to understand right now. Is it me?
Is it me or is it them?
Correct.
Yes.
Am I contributing? Am I complaining? Am I just nitpicking? Am I never happy? Because sometimes it's you.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we're saying that this person's showing up this way, you're simply projecting onto the other person. So before you start changing anything, just decide to be mindful and say, is it me? And so that's where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome to the Modern Waiter Podcast. I'm Marlon Joseph, the Modern Waiter, where we discuss all things restaurant business. Learn something, laugh at something. On today's episode, we answer the question, how to deal with an incompetent manager. This show is a response to a message from a listener who's having a difficult time with a manager. I will read the portion of the email and then let us see what we can do.
Yeah.
But first, the intro.
Tired of working deadbeat jobs for lame pay. I'm tired of getting fired and hired the same day. If you know the rules of the game, then you'll stay. And if you don't...
As usual, I'm joined by my good friend Danny DeVilla.
What's up, people?
It's important to note that just because you have a difficult time with a manager does not make him a bad manager.
No, absolutely.
What happens to this person or anyone, your feelings matter,
Absolutely.
Your experiences matter, and so that's why we're going to talk about the struggles. I'm not going to say her name. I'm not going to read any portion of the email that
will put anything on blast.
Correct.
Yes.
And so let's get right into it. And so the email goes, we have a new manager who's completely incompetent. What I mean by this is that every person he has hired has quit within weeks. He's the type of manager to avoid all conflict, yet walk across the restaurant to tell you to do something while you're busy, that he could easily have done in the time it took him to walk across the restaurant. How does one deal with an incompetent manager? I feel like I'm fighting every day, talking staff out of quitting. The money is good, the hours are good. We split tips on a point system. So every time there is a new hire, never trained properly, it is a drain of all our tips. And that's the part of the email that we can talk about.
Okay.
And we'll reference it as we go through.
Yeah.
And you mentioned we all have dealt with difficult managers.
Absolutely.
And managers have a different mandate, basically. You think that we're all in the same boat, and technically we are.
Yeah, the end result is for all to be in the same boat. Technically,
yes. But they have different constraints.
Yeah.
Different concerns.
They have different views.
Their
lens is different from ours.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so we're not here to put managers in a box and say, they don't do this and they do that. But my advice is my advice. This is how I feel. And so sometimes you can affect change.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
That's the length and breadth of it. And so...
And half the time, for all you out there, those people that you have to deal with, those incompetent managers, they're going to fire themselves. So you can just hold on. Especially if you like your job like this, like the listener said.
Yes.
Get through it, because eventually their incompetence is going to show.
True.
And the higher ups will see it, and you should be okay. Either they're going to have to change their ways, they're going to have to get along, or they're going to get gone.
What if they're part owner?
Ooh, then you got to go find a new job.
Well, as I was preparing the show, a lot of my advice has a lot to do with life, not just with work.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, work is life.
Yeah.
We deal with work a lot more than we deal with our personal life.
Yes, because you're there more.
You're there more. And so, firstly, it always starts with you. Mm-hmm. By that I mean, take inventory of your mindset. Your opinion of others often dictates how they show up for you. Mm-hmm. It's almost like the chicken and the egg. right? Which come first? Do you have a bad attitude towards some? Not a bad attitude, but do you have an opinion of someone, and then consequently, you just filter out all those instances where, oh, they show up that way for you, and then they show up that way for you, and then you react to that. So by that, when I say it always starts with you, if you think something is dumb or annoying, if it just takes a shift in your mindset.
Yes.
Right? So be open and honest with yourself as to how you are perceiving them.
And look through their lens. Try to look through their lens as well.
I agree with that. And that occurs in my advice in a little bit. And so you want to start the cycle off the right way, meaning you see the most positive things about them because they're a manager for a reason. So they have some abilities.
Hopefully.
Also, we also need to be honest isn't the best word for it, but objective.
True.
Okay? So now you mentioned in the email that you notice every person that they've hired. It tends to be a new manager, right? Every person that's hired has quit. Now, are they quitting directly because of him or her?
Yeah.
Right? That's
where we're trying to find. That's what you need to.
That's what you really need to assess.
Yes.
Are they the person, or are things just running a certain way and they're quitting?
Is it chaotic, or is it is the situation not what they signed up for, or was not what they were sold? Correct. Yes.
Correct. And so, also when it starts with you and your mindset, it's better to accentuate the positive when you're dealing with or thinking about the other person. If there's something that they do well, pay them a compliment. Focus on the things that occur well in their work, in their job, and things like that. Like, everyone likes a genuine compliment. Everyone likes recognition. So show respect and support wherever you can. And that's important because as you start to do this, you start to align yourself with this person that shows up for you as difficult.
Yes.
And with understanding, it starts to ease and starts to...
Because if all you do is bump heads, then they look at you in the same light that you look at them.
Correct. Because your perception is almost everything.
Yeah.
So framing... Adjust your framing. That's the bulk of it. Adjust your framing. You always, you could say, hey, you're always good with the customers with this. Like, it has to be genuine. It has to be noticed by you that you can be poignant. And that really goes well with...
You do this well. You start with a positive before you bring out a negative.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you're really just assessing, is it me?
Yes.
That's what I really want you to understand right now. Is it me?
Is it me or is it them?
Correct.
Yes.
Am I contributing? Am I complaining? Am I just nitpicking? Am I never happy? Because sometimes it's you.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we're saying that this person's showing up this way, you're simply projecting onto the other person. So before you start changing anything, just decide to be mindful and say, is it me? And so that's where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Adjust your framing, be positive, project, notice the things that they do well, pay them a compliment because that's how people want to show up that way. If you frame them as a person who's always punctual, they're gonna want to be punctual because that's how you frame them.
Yeah.
That's one of those life things. But your framing also works against you. If you don't expect anything from them and they're, oh, you're always late, they're going to be like, oh, I'm always late. People respond to that. You ever notice that you show up differently for different people?
Always.
Why?
That's just that's the balance in life.
But you're still you.
Yeah.
So that because people have different expectations of you.
Absolutely.
And we tend to rise and fall to those expectations. That's my simple point. And so as we go through this show, if you enjoy
even like with kids, when you're growing up, the attitude you portray towards your parents and then the attitude towards your friends are two totally different attitudes.
Yes.
You know, so I mean that you look at that in the same light as well.
Yes. With work,
Yeah.
with certain coworkers, with certain, with your spouse, and your spouse shows up at work and they see people respond to you differently.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Exactly.
And thus far, if you do enjoy our show, if you enjoy our content, please give it a like. Consider subscribing. You could always pass it on to a friend and tell them that you listened to this podcast and it was pretty cool. And so the next advice I have for you is to be proactive. You want to be the change you want to see.
You want to be the solution, not the problem.
Correct. And inevitably, if you're the type of person that does not offer solution, you end up being the problem, because nothing really gets fixed just because you bitched about it or you pointed it out. And these are real things. People are, quitting. It affects your coworkers and things like that. So now that you take an inventory of yourself, then now you could be proactive. Now you're going to be a doer.
Yeah.
And so,
and we're not telling you to do their job.
No.
We're telling you
do your job.
Do your job.
Yes. No, you can't do their job. I mean, that's overstepping.
Absolutely.
At some point, we definitely have to recognize that they are in a supervisory or an authoritative position,
Yeah.
and you need to respect that. So that also comes with some tippy-toeing when it comes to offering any solutions, advice, or even reflection. But you kind of have to earn that.
Yeah.
It's not that you just work there and you be like, oh, you could have done that and whatever the case may be. So the change requires effort. Change in the whole restaurant requires effort. And I don't want you to burn out.
No.
I don't want you to do everybody else's job.
No, definitely not. Play your position.
Yes.
And play it right.
First was the mental, now it's the physical, and know that it's going to require some mental and physical effort. And so if things need to be moved, move it. If things need to be done, do it. Just don't wait for anybody else. You want to be that change that you want to see. Take inventory of what needs to be done. Let's do it. And that, trust me, other people will notice. Other people will take note and follow suit. But it's a lead by example and not, follow me, do this.
And this
and
plays just with on the other end, with you guys that are managers that are watching the show. If you don't know, if you have a weird feeling about your staff or something like that, listen to what he's saying right there. Lead by example, because that's what you are. You're the leader.
You are the leader. And so as we go through, and let's address the issue of employees leaving. That could be any number of things.
Absolutely.
And so as you drill down into why they're leaving, pull back and understand that correlation does not equal causation. Meaning, managers knew people are quitting. It doesn't mean that they're quitting because of the manager. So it's a correlated thing, but it doesn't mean that they're the cause.
Yeah.
So
at least you hope not.
And it could be. And if it is,
if it's the direct cause, then you already know.
Then you already know.
Yeah.
The overall point is make sure that you could draw those links.
Check, then double check.
Yeah. Are they leaving going, I'm quitting because of this manager? So then you can really start to be open and honest when with your feedback.
Yeah, like with a carpenter, you measure twice and you cut once. Okay?
True.
That's the same idea that we're talking about right here. Before you just cut something.
Or cut somebody.
Yes. Double check and make sure that the measurement's perfect first.
Yes, that's it. Because after all, this is your livelihood.
Yes.
So that's what I mean by, because when you have ground to stand on, it's not a thing where, I'm right, and then I could just, fire off attitude wherever I could go. But you really are standing in a place of,
because you can be right, but your attitude can make you be wrong.
Correct.
And that happens a lot with normal stuff. People can have the 100% the truth be on their side, but at the same time, how they portrayed it was wrong.
It happens to me all the time. And so the thing that I've learned is a little patience to take inventory, because sometimes I'm very quick to react. Yeah. And so before I react, let me just, and I'm not even looking for anything. Let me just take some time.
Yeah.
And as you take some time, like you said, things start to figure themselves out. Could be that you just need, or the whole place needs to get that, it kind of sucks, but it needs to have that tragic,
that downward slope before it goes up.
Yes, because sometimes people don't notice when things are being held on to. You know, is it bad enough for change?
Exactly.
You know, and it may not be. The place may still be making money. You may still be getting, still mixed reviews, but mostly, positive and things like that. And people don't really want to make that change. They think everything is okay. But let the money be fucked up, or all bad reviews.
Yeah.
Oh, meeting.
Yeah. Just like that.
Just like that. Things are gonna change.
Yep.
But you don't want it to get to that.
Exactly.
So this is pretty much the way to do it. You have to be the change. So once you have taken inventory of your thought, your actions, your attitude, and now you have the humility to understand someone else.
Yeah.
Find out what the manager needs. It's a conversation, not like, hey, can I talk to you? But as you talk to them, hey, what do you need? And then they start to reveal what their shortcomings are, or the things that, what their expectations are.
Yeah.
Because without knowing their side of it or their expectations, you're always going to be on opposites. But then once you find out, hey, what it is that you need, or what are your expectations here, and things like that.
And see where their logic is.
Yeah. Because also, you never know what they are going through from their boss.
Point of view, absolutely.
Their boss may be mandating them to do things that end up not setting themselves up for success. And so, as you do that, a good way to find out what expectations are is to seek feedback. Hey, how am I doing in this situation? Or what is it that what do you want from us as a staff in this situation? Take opportunities, because it sounds like things, the next time someone gets fired, find out what the expectations are. Not fired, sorry, quit.
Yeah.
Find out what the
why are they, exactly. What happened?
Yeah.
Why is this happening?
Ask them to write a letter as to why they're quitting.
Yeah.
That goes a long way of the person that's quitting than the person that's there. It sounds counterintuitive, but once a manager understands, obviously the person quitting don't have anything to lose.
Yeah.
And so hopefully they have that thing where you could have some reflection
and see exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Or what's going wrong.
Yeah. Because then then the manager might be so obtuse and just say, oh, it's always out somebody else. And like you said, they'll just end up firing themselves.
Exactly.
And so seek feedback, and then you'll start to understand what their expectations are. And then you start to see the job through their eyes. Boom. Now, after doing all of that, you're going to end up finding some common ground.
Yeah.
And so once you're on common ground, you can affect change much better than sitting on opposite sides. You're on the same sides trying to deal with the needs of the business. And so if a person's not going to change in that situation, they don't
deserve to be there anyway.
Yeah, they don't deserve to be there. Good point. And so do you remember a time that you dealt with an incompetent manager? Not like a personality thing, because she used the word incompetent several times.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's been years, but definitely remember a few incompetent managers that, and it wasn't that they might have had experience, but they lacked either the people aspect of it, or they lacked an aspect that is almost necessary to be management, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I didn't have a problem. I usually don't have a problem with people anyways. But let's say I didn't have, even if I didn't have a problem, I could still see their shortcomings while being, like I said, on their side, like understanding both sides of the coin, and understanding that they just didn't have it.
Yeah. And the interesting thing when you're talking, I've dealt with difficult managers.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
And so that's just an opposition of personalities. Dealing with an incompetent manager is in a lot of ways easier, in my opinion.
yes.
You know, when you deal with a difficult manager, people ain't changing their personalities.
You can almost train an incompetent manager.
Thank you.
You can learn them on the ways of the force.
Yes, because a lot of times they mean well.
Yeah.
They want to learn, and they kind of know they don't know what they're doing.
Yes. They're
You
faking
know?
it till they make it.
They're faking it till they make it, and they may not always know like how to find that balance between I'm an authority but still needing to know what, especially if the difficulty is if they're not humble about it. If they have no humility,
That's where the issue lies.
That's where
They
the
have
issue
to-
lies.
And if you can find a humbleness in them, then you can reach them.
boom, super easy.
Yeah.
And so, as I remember my experiences with an incompetent manager, like you said, it's really hard to find an incompetent manager.
Yeah.
But there's certain things that are in a management style that could be labeled as incompetent, but really is a legitimate management style. For instance, in the letter, she mentioned coming across the room to do something that they could have easily done. They don't have to do any of that. Yeah. Delegation
That's part of their job. Their management.
Yes.
They're there to delegate to see if you're going to do it, to see who's going to step up, to see, just like we were just talking about earlier, are you going to be that one to step up? Maybe they're in their mind seeing if you're the lazy one or if you're not the lazy one, if you can handle the multiple steps that it takes to be a server or a bartender, and while still keeping this restaurant clean, or while still managing your section, all the above.
Yeah. And so here's the issue as I only have these words, right?
Yeah.
So the operative word there was while we're busy that they're doing this. So here's two things. Here's two schools of thought. I've had a manager do that to me, and that was his style.
Yeah.
He, in his mind, as things are busy, you should still be able to do these things.
We might be talking about the same manager. He was one of my favorite managers. He was very organized, and he would come to you, pull you aside, be like, "What's your side work?" and you would tell him, you're like, "Well, go do it."
Yeah. So different manager, but I know who you're talking about. And so this is very encouraging because as you have a conversation with this manager and you say, hey, I know this needed to be done. And I'm assuming it could be as simple as picking something up, right? Off the floor or whatever. He walks by it, or he walks by a task that could be done to tell you to do it, and you're busy. So the way that I would handle that is to say, hey, I could do that, no problem. What is more important? What would you like to establish as the order of importance?
Yes.
Right? So once you establish the order of importance, your directive has changed. So generally in the restaurant business, the order of importance is
the guest.
The guest.
Yes.
The guests go first. Needs of the guests come first, and then everything else goes secondly.
Yes.
There's also going to be some exceptions. Safety, and things like that, right? Cleanliness, I don't know. It's tough. Like cleanliness is a part of it, but then there's a ton of other people that could pick up a piece of paper.
Absolutely.
You know, if you walked by it and he's demonstrating to you that you walked by it and you shouldn't have.
Yeah, and if you walked by it,
that's legit.
If your hands aren't full and you walk by and you just didn't pick it up, then that's just being lazy. But let's say you have a full tray in your hand and you walk by, there's nothing you can do at that point.
I wouldn't label it as lazy as much as dismissive of something that needs to be done.
Yes.
You know, because lazy is you're not working at all, you know, and you're basically what the manager's job is to reprioritize what your order of importance is. So if he wants to ratchet up that item, we're calling it a piece of paper on the floor, as higher on the importance, no problem. It's their sandbox. They decide what toys go in it. So then if that's it, you go, all right, so it'll be 2 minutes later for this table to get whatever they want, and I'll take care of that because at this restaurant, this is the order of
Yeah.
importance. And so then after you know that, you don't have a problem with them because the expectations are set, the expectations are understood, and your expectations, if they're not being met in that situation, then it's not an incompetence thing. It's a difference of opinion thing.
Yes.
And that's a whole other set of advice.
Yes.
Right? So demonstrate the impact of their actions. Okay? So then if you talk about the instance where he walked across the room and say, hey, now I'm no longer able to be at my table or do this or do that, and this is the result.
Yes.
You're talking about simply what is and what has happened, not emotionally upset. Oh, I need to do this and I need to do that. Don't complain, just explain. That's a simple.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And so then, because when you complain, people get defensive. They get defensive of
Off
their
the rip.
work.
Yeah.
They get defensive of their methods and things like that. And in a sense, by now you would have understood their methods if you've done any of the things that we
said
talked
it
about before,
absolutely.
right? So once you understand their methods and you say, "Oh, cleanliness is higher," or "Man, oh, okay."
And different
I'll
managers
give-
look for different things.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
So that's really breaks down. Like, you're going to know on certain shifts you have to deal with this style of management, where on other shifts you don't.
Yes.
This is where their priorities lie. So this is how I'm going to handle it on their shift.
Yes.
You know, that's just dealing with people though as a whole.
Man, and that's it. And they tell you a lot of times, they will tell you what they need.
Yeah.
If they don't, then wow, that's rough.
Yeah.
If they're erratic, that's rough too.
Yeah.
But, for instance, I worked at a place where every shift, the minute we got in, who's managing? And then once you know who's managing, you know
expectations. Off
you
the
know
rip.
you know expectations. You're like, okay. I had a manager. All he cared about was, I don't want to say all, but I'm generalizing. All he cared about was coasters on the table.
Yeah.
Coasters on the table. He'll come over to you and be like, why aren't there any coasters at that table? Did you greet that table? Coasters on the table.
Yeah.
So I knew I just put coasters down before I even talked to anybody. Pap, pap, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I'm invisible. Right?
Stay invisible.
You stay invisible.
Yes.
So then there was other managers where stuff on the floor. If there was anything on the floor in your station and you didn't pick it up, that's
their thing.
That's their thing.
There's always a thing.
There's always a thing. So find out what this manager's thing is, and then just do it.
Yeah.
And hopefully you don't have to work with them all the time. But you
have a good mix.
a lot of these things, like, you know what, getting along is an agreement, and not getting along is also an agreement.
Yeah.
It's so you dealt with you first. Now you deal with the other person. And
We're going to agree to disagree.
I hate that. How dare you?
It's your favorite.
Agree to disagree?
Well, you said if you're going to get along, you either can get along or you can't get along.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
But you
it.
don't have to agree to disagree. That's an agreement.
I see
Just
it.
disagree. I kill you. And so as we're doing this, and let's say you explain the drain on the tips, you explain the impact of having new people and having them quit,
Yeah.
and what it means to the bottom line. Think about it from the perspective of not just you, but the needs of the business. The business doesn't need to be losing money.
Yeah.
Because if you lose tips, you're losing money.
Absolutely.
Very rarely the one doesn't have anything to do with the other.
Absolutely.
Because if they're not able to sell or do the order of operations to the best of their knowledge, that means they're pissing off guests.
If they're running, that means you have more comps. That means if you're running if you have less tips, you definitely have more comps. Okay?
Yes.
So if you're comping food, you're already losing money for the business. So it goes hand in hand.
And you're not satisfying the guests to
Yes,
the point where
absolutely.
you're welcoming them back.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's losing business.
That's losing business. So as you explain the impact of what's
And that
happening,
affects the entire restaurant. That's how you find. That's where it goes from management to the trickle down.
100%. And so my final piece of advice is to I suggest writing an action plan. So now we've gone through all the steps of understanding expectations, adjusting your own perspective. You want a clear record of expectations. So what is it that you'd like us as a staff to do? And if it's you, I don't think an incompetent manager will just have a problem with just one person.
Yeah.
But if it is, it still applies. And so with the with writing the plan, you really want to have a plan for employee retention. How could we solve this?
How are we losing all these people this quickly?
Exactly. So you're really empowering them, by asking them, we have a...
This is an issue, obviously.
This is an issue. How do we solve it? And if they walk away and say, oh, that's their problem, it's actually his problem.
They're incompetent.
Yes. But if they really care about the business, they're going to want to work with you and demonstrate like a willingness to figure out how to make it better for the restaurant. So then I guess that's my last thing. It's like empowerment. Empower them
to see if they can fix it and make their own solution. If they can't, like we said, the very first thing I said was eventually they're going to fire themselves if they're truly incompetent.
Because then why are they there?
Why are they there? And then somebody above them will see it. They will see the numbers drop. So for you, that is, for the person that sent this letter, what do you do? If they're truly incompetent and you've went through the show and you've listened to everything we said and you've adjusted and you find that they are truly incompetent, they're going to be gone sooner than later.
Yes.
Stick through it. Talk your staff out of not quitting and let them know that person will be gone sooner than later. And see, maybe talk to upper management if you have a good relationship with your upper manager, talk to them and point out the things that you're noticing as well.
Okay, so that's at the very end of what we're talking about here. So as you are writing out that plan and setting that record of expectation, you demonstrate to your boss, what are we talking about? Manager,
yes.
You demonstrate to your manager that this is just one copy. The next there's another copy going to the upper management, and another copy similarly going to corporate, or if there's an owner or whatever.
Yeah.
This is not
the beginning. This is not the end. This is the beginning.
And that holds some accountability. And sometimes people think they're doing a good job.
Until they see it. Sometimes they need to see it in black and white.
Correct.
And that is why you wrote that exactly what you wrote out.
And this came after
everything we just talked about.
Yes.
After assessing yourself, assessing them, everything.
If you skip just to this,
no.
You're getting pushback.
Absolutely.
And you could fire yourself.
Yeah.
So it's important to know that
after you went above and beyond all the things that so they notice these things. So this way, when you do demonstrate that you're talking about this, that you've already tried to get along in their system and it just didn't work.
Yes. Yeah. And hopefully you're not having a person that, some people think they're so far behind in the race, they think they're winning.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I don't see anybody in front of me. I must be winning.
You're 2 laps behind.
Yeah, you're 2 laps behind. And so, that really helps the morale to know that, hey, this person now knows, how we feel. This is what I'm doing. You're shored up your attitude and your level of effort.
And you let off your chest, which is huge.
And to her credit, she did say, I may just need to vent.
Yeah.
She
let it
might
out,
feel
babe.
like, sometimes that's what it needs. Have a shift drink. You know what I'm saying? We talk about that all the time. I don't know if you drink. You could pour yourself some ginger ale.
Whatever you need, though.
Whatever you need, and we're here for that.
Yes.
And if you have a difficult situation that you want us to talk about, feel free. You can email me, themodernwaiter@gmail.com, or follow me on Instagram @themodernwaiterpodcast. All the time, I'm just like this. This was Jennifer. This was March. This was last month, and here we are doing a show about it, talking about it. I won't say your name, but thank you so much, because this is why we do the show.
Absolutely.
Because we all go through this.
Yes.
And we all need to talk about it. It's just that I can't have everybody on the show, but this is the one way that she can talk about it.
Absolutely.
And then she can feel like, hey,
and
maybe
then people
I did
out
everything.
there that are watching, so they can relate to this, or maybe they have the same exact thing that they're going through.
Yes. And
so you might help somebody else that needed an event right here.
Boom. And a lot of times it could even just be solved with an attitude change. Sometimes it's like, it be's what it is. I'm not going to sit here and criticize because criticism is not the work of helpful at all. And so just not criticizing and being a positive person, that stands out as well.
I think that was it.
I think that was it.
You had it.
Yeah.
It was just time to wrap it up. Wrap it up, B.
I stumbled on the landing. The dismount tripped me up. Just satisfy the needs of the business.
Yes.
And I'm grateful that you're here. We do this for you each and every week.
Boom.
And we haven't missed a week yet.
No.
Somebody messaged me and asked me, do you do a weekly show? What?
Yes.
Have you seen us?
We're here.
We'll be here next week.
Yes.
I'm Marlon Joseph, the Modern Waiter.
I'm Danny Villain. Subscribe, people.
We'll see you next time.
Later.
Killing them out there. Haters don't lie. Killing them out there. Haters don't lie. Killing them out there. Haters don't lie.